Hello and welcome to all you prospective kebabbers. I'm Chad Snacks, and you've come to the right place if you're just looking for some tips or tricks on how to use the javelin just a little bit more effectively. I'm not a pro or a bad man, but I'm just gonna go over some stuff that works for me. There are 3 different types of javelin that you can have access to at the moment: the heavy javelin, short spear, and standard javelin. Short spear, not really a javelin, but it still does the same thing, so I refer to it as such. Even though the heavy javelin flies through the air like a pregnant cow, I like it for the extra damage and one-hit kebabs on those pesky men-at-arms. Because I like using it up close and personal anyways, the measly 4 ammo works for me. But if you want to sit back and pepper enemies a bit longer before going in, you may want to use one of the lighter variants. Tip number 1, know the javelin specific cooldown times. What I mean by that is both the time it takes for you to flex your huge archer muscles and wind up a javelin to throw, and the time upon firing it for you to grab another. If you start winding up a throw too early, your opponent will probably notice and jump around like a bunny. Another thing to note is that when you throw your very last javelin, it switches immediately to your chosen secondary rather than leaving you kind of useless for a few seconds. It's much less risky to throw close up at this point because you aren't a guaranteed kill if you miss. Tip number 2, melee. The javelin's main strength is in its versatility. It's basically 2 weapons in one, and it's important you don't forget about the melee part of it. Even though it looks kind of like a toothpick compared to some of the weapons the Knight or Vanguard have access to, it's still not to be underestimated. The javelin's stab attack acts as you would think it would. You valiantly thrust your javelin forward towards enterprising pieces of meat and or vegetables. Your second option for melee attacks is your overhead. However, in this, javelins are unique amongst all other weapons. Why, you might ask? Because your overhead is an attack with your offhand. What? But Chad, don't you have a shield in your left hand, some of you might be asking? And you'd be absolutely correct. The second attack is so useful because most opponents are going to be watching your dominant hand as a cue to avoid being kebabbed, and they will not expect a metal frisbee to the head. Tip number 3, like it or not, you are an archer. You are often confused and easily frightened. At least that's what you want your enemies to think. Because of their natural hatred of archer scum, they will often prioritize you above other possible targets. An unfortunate side effect of being an archer is that you are also the squishiest. Knights and vanguards can and will run up and one-hit you. Keep your situational awareness up and use the game audio to detect when someone's trying to sneak up and pull a fast one. Tip number 4, get a feel for how weapons hit. For example, your own stabbing attack starts to the right of your character and moves in a straight line towards your reticle. This means that sometimes you can hit enemies who are seemingly beside you, not in front. However, this tip doesn't just apply to your own weapon. Knowing the reach and nuances of enemy weapons can help you immensely in battle, and the only way you can get that is just by playing the game. You'll soon notice that every weapon's melee attack has a little hop attached to it. This is fine and all in some circumstances, but in other extremely close quarters situations, you will find yourself missing, because in conjunction with this hop, you and your enemy are moving and you just can't drag your attack fast enough. And that leads into my first trick. A simple remedy to our problem is the crouch attack. Start winding up an attack, and just before the little hop happens, crouch. Besides making you a smaller target, this makes it so the little hop simply doesn't happen, so you have free range to swivel around and hit your enemy in his tender parts. The second trick ties into tip number 4. You want to use this animosity that others feel towards you to your advantage, backing away as if afraid and then darting forward, and timing your strike to interact with their surprised face. The third trick is basically the ranged equivalent of the second. You start out by running away from someone who has their sights set on you in a straight line. If all goes well, they will begin following in a straight line as well. Start winding up for a throw as you run, and then spin around and fire away. Because they are following you in a straight line as well, you will have a more than usually clear shot. That's all I've got to say in regards to the javelin. If you like this, then give me a like, and stay tuned because I'll definitely be doing a lot more chivalry stuff in the future. Take care, have a good one, and I hope you enjoy the kebabs. Thanks, guys. Peace.